That's what makes his performance last night so frustrating if you are someone who actually likes Donald Trump. It must be anyways. He had that moment, and he could have done it again. He could have simply redirected it, asked her another question, put the question directly to her. He didn't do it. There were breaks and stops in the action when he could have collected himself, perhaps calmed down a little bit, even had that moment where he turns to the moderators and say, look, I see what you guys are doing. I get it. I understand. You're not big fans of mine. There are plenty of people out there who aren't big fans of mine.
Right there's a good line, yes.
Boom. Yep. It's easy. And these are small things that he could have worked on. In fact, we've seen him do this kind of stuff in other contexts, which is what made, again, I'm not surprised by the ways in which he failed, in the areas, but the degree to which he did it is another thing entirely.
He should have had his big media moment. Here's the problem, though. He couldn't have the Newt Gingrich moment because that was one question to Newt, and it opened the CNN debate by John King. One, that's easy. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to be as great as Newt was on that answer. No, that was spectacular. But I'm just saying, even Trump could have understood, look what happened with me at that debate in 2015 when we asked him that very tough, that wasn't actually the opening question. It was something from Brett about whether he'd support the eventual nominee. But anyway, my point is, he can do it when it's just one question or two questions. This was an ambush. It was an all-in pile-on with one guy in the foxhole and all these shooters all around him. And Trump was trying. He was trying to take care of this one and take care of this one and take care of that one. But it was ubiquitous around him. There's only so much he felt he could do. And I felt for him. I mean, I recognized it too. All semblance of fairness had gone out the window. I mentioned this last night. This was my least favorite tactic. All right, this was perhaps the most unfair thing ABC did. We pulled a couple of examples. We could have gone on, but here's just a couple of, this is the format. You are fucking awful, Donald Trump. Why are you so awful? And then Vice President Harris, would you like to weigh in on how awful he is? Watch it. Watch.
Yeah.
Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? But I do want Vice President Harris to respond here. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker, so he still believes he did not lose the election. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here? Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent? Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
By the way, asking someone, as a debate moderator, do you believe it's appropriate to whatever you said? Is just like, as a moderator question, I think that the average American actually notices this. And I was talking to somebody about this today, is that Donald Trump lost the debate. I think there's no doubt about this. I think he was terrible. I know other people might disagree with me on that, but I think that one thing that saved him was the moderation. I think that pushed that, more towards a, not like a draw, but it's somewhere kind of in the closer to the middle because of how obvious it is to watch them do things like that.
100%.
I mean, imagine that you're like, the follow-up here is like, how much do you agree that he should feel bad about this? Whereas there's an actual question that she was talking about near the top, right? About tariffs. She's calling tariffs taxes. Okay. He points out correctly that many of his tariffs, especially about China, the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration had adopted. So the natural moderator question is, so Kamala Harris, those tariffs, are they not taxes? Which ones are taxes? Are the ones that you don't like, the one that Trump wants, or the ones that you do like? And just tease that out in a way that's a little bit more elegant. That's an actual important follow-up question about policy and about philosophy that is so much more important than like Black Indian nomenclature.
I know.
And this is the second time that Dana Bash asked that shit. Dana Bass asked 30 questions. These guys asked about like 13 or 14, depending on how you do it, with some follow-ups. They thought that was one of the most important ones. And also, here's one that maybe you didn't even highlight, Megyn, but we've seen this in how many debates over the last 25 years? This question. Climate change is a really big issue, and the young people especially really care about it. What are you going to do about it? That is no longer the question. The question is, maybe say something like, okay, so you wanted to ban fracking in 2019. Fracking has been the single biggest driver of reducing carbon footprint, which is good for greenhouse gases. How do you square that circle, right? Like, talk about a policy or a trade-off, not just the young people really care about climate change. What do you say?
Mm-hmm. That's all. That was the question. Where do you stand on climate change? The fracking thing was one of the biggest fall downs of the night. For all his stupid fact-checking, David Muir's stupid fact-checking. I listened to all those pieces of tape and I did not hear sarcasm. Shut up. Who died and made you king of what sarcasm is and what isn't? That is opinion. It's not a fact check.
He seems like someone who understands sarcasm.
Fact checking. He didn't fact check her on the fracking. He did it after Dana Bash fell down on the job in that CNN interview and let her get away with, I've made my position perfectly clear back in 2020 on the debate stage. Perfectly clear that I do not support a ban on fracking. When, of course, the Joe Biden, that was the Joe Biden, she was the vice presidential debate, where she said Joe Biden won't ban fracking. Joe Biden won't. She had said she would have if she had been elected as president 6 months earlier. So now, if you're David Muir, you know this is coming. You've written it into your questions. Lindsay Davis has a question about fracking and the flip-flop. And she says she hasn't flip-flopped. And again, they let her get away with it. No fact check. But for Trump, that wasn't sarcasm. What? And of those other stupid fact checks we just played. It was so unfair and lopsided. I can barely keep the stomach bile where it belongs.
We were gonna send a drone with some Xanax over to your compound.
We have an Uber Eats just full of Xanax and Klonopin. I'm
into it. I've never taken a Xanax. But I would.
I can give you some. Yeah, I have a couple in my bag. I want to say one final thing. I really want to be clear. I love adversarial debate moderators. Sure. Totally fine if you want to do it in an even-handed way. So we were talking about this last night. I think, why just you have a list of questions, right? You write these out and they kind of send them around to ABC. Be a little more off the cuff at certain times. So, for instance, it is a perfect time for a moderator who's been paying attention to this race when she says, in the question about Afghanistan, well, Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. It's like, wait, Joe Biden. And then, she says, well, I didn't ban fracking in the past. As a moderator, as somebody who is an interviewer, Megyn, you know this, you see these things, you make those connections. It's the beautiful mind. And you say, wait, hold on. Madam Vice President, when are you in charge and when are you not in charge? What can you take credit for and what can you not take credit for? Because the disaster in Afghanistan was Joe Biden's. You not banning fracking was you. So explain to the American people what you do as a vice president in which decisions you're responsible for. That is a completely reasonable question, but they're just reading off.
Here's the other thing on the fracking, because here's what a responsible journalist does. They go back and they look at all her recent statements and all of his recent statements on these issues that you're going to raise, and you make sure you know where they normally go, and you get ready for a potential fact check if you have to do it. What's she going to say in response to this? We used to do this on Fox News all the time. Go back and look at any debate Brett Baer, Chris Wallace, and I did as the three moderators of these, and this shit never happened to us because we were prepared and we would anticipate what they would say, and we'd have the hammer ready to drop if they walked into our trap. It was fun, and we did it to Republicans, even though we were at Fox News. So you can, right, exactly. You can set them up for difficult questions. You just have to do it to both sides. But on the fracking question, they should have known, based on what she said to Dana Bash, that she was going to both deny that she'd held this position, refer to her 2020 vice presidential debate, and claim that as her own position, even though it was only saying Joe Biden won't ban fracking, and that she would then go on to say exactly what she said to Dana Bash in that CNN interview, which was, I, in fact, cast the deciding vote as president of the Senate in my role as vice president to open up more leases as part of the Inflation Reduction Act for fracking, on fracking. That sounds so good on paper. Yes, because she said it before. They clearly didn't do their homework because they don't give a shit. All they want to do is go with that. That sounds good. We actually looked it up. You know what? It's true. Yeah. She did open those more leases by that vote, only to then a couple of months later shut them all down, saying the environmental impact hadn't been fully studied. So they put that in there so they could say they'd done it, only to then cut it all out at the knees. A responsible debate moderator interested in fact checking might have raised something like that.
Mm-hmm. If you were going to bring back any question from that Bash interview, I didn't suspect it would be the one about the race stuff. Yeah. I thought it might have been the one about Biden, his fitness for office, which was a moment when she asked the question. She didn't ask it well because she covered it in euphemism to try to help Kamala to the right answer. But it's the right question to ask. And if the moderators aren't going to ask it, Donald Trump should have mentioned it. At what point did you know that your boss was incapable of actually doing the job? Because there's only two possibilities there. You were either lying and you said that he could do it when you knew he couldn't, or you have incredibly poor judgment. Because every single American and everyone in the media, once they saw that debate performance, knew what we've known for a very long time, that Joe Biden simply isn't up to the task at this point. And he certainly won't be up to the task next year or 4 years from now. And
Kmele, there wasn't one question about his mental fitness and why she didn't come forward about it. Not one. You did not vote for this economic downturn and this high inflation, but you could be paying for it at the pump, the grocery store, and with growing stacks of unpaid bills. Financial stress can be crushing, and one solution could be donewithdebt.com. Done With Debt created new aggressive strategies designed to get you out of debt permanently without bankruptcy or loans. Done With Debt can stand between you and your bill collectors. They negotiate with your creditors to write off balances, cut interest, and stop penalties. And the best news is Done With Debt is accepting new clients right now. But you need to hurry because some of their debt strategies are time sensitive and you don't want to miss out. Let Done With Debt hit the debt reset button for you and make your money yours again. Visit donewithdebt.com or call 1-888-322-1054 now. Chat with one of their debt relief strategists for free. That's donewithdebt.com, donewithdebt.com. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.